Hey everybody, it's Henry Motors and Blowers. This is part 4 of my opposed twin Briggs and Stratton engine that I got stripped off of Craftsman lawn tractor, rusted out on the side of a curb. It was completely flooded with water, mixed with oil for God knows how long. Did not have a carburetor on it. Got it back home, took it apart, cleaned out the insides, unstuck a valve, put everything back together again, got a new carb. It's a Nicky 6, got it from Pete Lombardi. Tried to start it, ignition switch failed, it's all rusted and corroded. Ordered a new one, key busted. Panel over here, you can just access it, which is really cool. So I'm waiting for the ignition switch. While I was waiting, I put this firewall back in. It clips onto that along with the tins. It's kind of cool. That is a new solenoid because I borrowed it, the original one, for another tractor, and then got a new one to replace it. Reconnected the power lead to the starter. I also found out the diagram for the wiring. So if you guys ever want to know, the green and the red wire goes to the headlights. Okay? The hood is going to have the other side of this. The black wire here is connected to ground, which is also connected to the magneto, or armature, or ignition coil, whichever you want to call it. It goes to the yellow wire. Yellow wire goes to the ignition switch harness, which in turn shuts off the engine. So this wire here is to allow you to shut the engine off. If this wire is not connected, your engine will run until you put it to choke or something like that and stall it. So that's basically it. The black and white wire here, that also goes to, they all go to the ignition switch, that one harness. The black and the white wire go to the stator, which is underneath the flywheel. Black, I believe, is AC current. White is DC. I'm sure there's a diode under there or something like that that converts it, because there's definitely no voltage regulator on this thing. At least I didn't see one. Hope there's not one. Anyway, I'm not going to put the tins on anymore because, oh, you know what? I mean, I guess no. Because if the engine doesn't run right, I'm going to strip it for parts. Why do all that extra work and put on the tins for nothing if I don't know if it runs, you know? I did jump the solenoid yesterday, and it did crank, you know, and cranked pretty well. And I felt compression and all that stuff, but there's no gas, so it didn't start. I guess I could try to start it. Oh, what fun is that? I want to wait for the ignition switch, you know what I mean? Cliffhanger. Anyway, so we'll get to this when I get the ignition switch. While I'm waiting for the ignition switch, why not brush off the magneto a little, you know? Apparently it makes quite a difference. The contact points, just brush it off a little bit. Couldn't hurt anything. Unless I brush it too hard and break something, you know, that's always possible. Also, brush off the magnet. I did this the other day already, so it's pretty clean. But rust buildup and corrosion is going to cause less of a magnetic field, you know, and that way your spark is not as strong as it could be. And as long as you have this off, make an effort to, that's right, clean your shit. So I drained the automatic transmission fluid out of the reservoir there that I had soaking in here for a couple of days. I swished it around, the oil slinger and all that stuff, and here it is. It's automatic transmission fluid that I had in there. Wanted to clean out the bottom sump pan and and all the sludge that was remaining in there maybe. It's not bad. I mean, you could tell that it is mostly red, mostly automatic transmission fluid, but you can tell by the way it looks that there is oil, PB blaster, sludge, maybe a little bit of water in there or something like that, but now it's all gone. Everything's been soaked up in there, and so this is the crap that was left in the engine. I filled up 1.3 quarts of motor oil in there now. Right on the nose. So, just waiting for a ignition switch. And we're going to give it its first run since being taken from that Craftsman. Hey everybody, it's Henry at Motors and Blowers. It's Saturday morning, and I'm very anxious because my ignition switch came last night, and basically I just put it in. It's very easy, you know, it's this exact direct replacement to the one that I had before. It was accessible through the access panel here, and I basically just put the harness back on and, you know, just stuck the ignition switch on there. And I put fuel in. I've got oil in there. I've probably thought of many things that could go wrong. I'm a little iffy on the throttle linkage because when I move the throttle forward and stuff, everything moves okay, but this part here doesn't really move that much. But I'm thinking that while the engine is running, right, while the engine is running, it'll move better, you know. That is, if it runs. So this is a long time coming, you know. This tractor has never had a working engine in it before, you know. This engine was pulled off a Craftsman on the side of the street, and the reason why this one didn't run was because it was filled with water and oil sludge that was gathering there. I mean, God knows how long that engine was sitting out there. It didn't have a carburetor, so rain, leaves, water was getting into the intake manifold because there was no carburetor, and flooded the engine with water. So it was water and oil mixture for God knows how long. No idea how long, right? But I took it all apart, as you saw in my other videos. Blew it all out. I unstuck that valve, and everything moves around nicely. Flushed the inside with ATF fluid, and now I have regular 5W30 motor oil in there. Battery's good, has oil, put fuel in it. It's got a new ignition switch, a new solenoid. Unstuck the valve. It's got a Nicky carb that Pete Lombardi gave me. I'm okay confident that it's a good carburetor, but I don't know yet, you know. Guys, I'm gonna turn it on. I'm gonna try to start it. And you're gonna be here with me for the first time. I'm very nervous. Oh, I hope so. It's either 50-50. I either get very disappointed or I'm very happy, you know. So here we go. Now remember, I've got it on full choke for the first start, and as you know, it's also a fuel pump thing, so it's gonna crank a while until it gets fuel into the fuel pump and into the carburetor bowl, you know. So it's going to take a few cranks. It's not going to start boom one shot. I wish, you know. But here we go. Crap. That's odd. Nothing works. Nothing. Oh boy. So I figured it out. There's the switch there, right? I was messing around with it, and this part here touched the frame, and while I was turning the key, it cranked. So it has to be grounded. And this thing here was on plastic, but I was always like that. But I don't understand. Maybe that's not grounded right or something like that. But anyway, I'm gonna give it a try anyway. Just gonna let it run. Set up a little tripod for you so you can watch while I do this. Here we go. Alright, start it up. A lot of fuel coming out though, man. A lot of fuel coming out. In my opinion, too much fuel. It wants to start. I don't know, guys, it seems like too much fuel to me, you know what I'm saying? I've lowered the throttle, so maybe that'll help. So much fuel. High throttle. Yeah, it's just too much fuel, man. I'm flooding the engine every time, you know. I'm going to come back later. So I had these smaller plugs. They're newer, so I put them in there. But I figured that they might be too small for that engine. So those are RJ12s. These are RJ19 LMs, right? So I put the original, cleaned up the original ones that are RJ12s. They both have spark. I tested both of them, you know. Who knows? Maybe it's the bigger spark plug that is required. hold this and try to mess with it. You know what I mean? I wanna get into here and hold this. I'm gonna hold the throttle open while I do this, but I can't do it because it. I'm gonna have to ground that somehow. And hold this thing. See, this is not moving while throttles like that. I think it's the linkage, man. I'm gonna put something there. I'm gonna stick this crap over here, hold it open, see if that does anything. Because without this thing there, it doesn't stay open. Which maybe is the reason. Maybe. I don't know anything at this point. I have jammed that thing open. Let's give this a try now. Choke half. Ooh. Almost. Almost. I don't know, guys. I'm not having a good time.